What's up, guys? Welcome to the TCP podcast. How you guys doing? You guys really liked the podcast last week. I see that. I saw that in the analytics and stuff like that on BitChute, and I saw the analytics on the podcast network that I use, which is anchor.fm/my name, Totally Clear Politics, obviously. But I saw the results on there. There was a lot of people that listened to the podcast. A lot of people watched the videos on BitChute, and I appreciate that very much. This is going to be a weekly podcast. Now, I told you I didn't really give that much information last week about the situation and how I was going to adjust this podcast and the way I was going to do it. But I should just elaborate a little bit more before we get into the first subject and the first segment of the TCP podcast. Here's the thing. This podcast is going to be coming out every Monday. Either Monday or Tuesday is when the videos will go up live on BitChute. The podcast will release first on Sunday. As the way I set it up is because I'm using a regular podcast service, so that gets released on Sunday. The videos that go along with this podcast that you're watching right now will come up on Monday and Tuesday is when they'll be uploaded and they'll be put in the same playlist. And you guys seem to enjoy that, and you guys seem to enjoy the Biden segment the most out of that whole podcast, which I appreciate that. And that was just an opinion, so I wasn't insulting the guy. I just feel bad that the Democrats are using him as a puppet. You know what I mean? And now with the issue with the president and his wife and a bunch of people with the COVID stuff, you know what I mean? But we're not going to talk about that. Right now, we're talking about the main subject of the podcast, which is the censorship that has been shifted into high gear over on 3 platforms. The 3 segments that I'm going to do on this podcast are going to include Facebook, YouTube, and yes, Twitter. I'm finally calling you out as well, because this is getting sickening, all right? Fact checks, this, that, the other thing. All right, now, you guys all know that I have a page on Facebook. You want to see that? Like I said, that's facebook.com/totallywrong. Take those out, place them with zeros. That thing has been littered with community standards violations for no reason, all right? We've been putting up memes and things like that. Any meme that has to do with insulting a liberal automatically gets removed from the platform, or something that was a funny joke was like one of the posts that we had was a girl with no legs, and she was barbecuing something on the metal pieces that were attached to her legs. It was a meme that has been around for almost 3 years, and nobody has a problem with it. It seems when the left posts a meme like that, that's okay, but everybody else gets shat on for it. Now, for all those people that are living under a rock and are like, oh, well, Instagram's better. You guys are dumb because Instagram is Facebook, whether you like it or not. I mean, I don't know if you're not smart enough to open up the Facebook, if you're not smart enough to open up the Instagram app and then see that it says Facebook presents Instagram, then you're dumb. That's another thing that we're going to talk about. So we're going to hit the 2 main social platforms that people use right now. All right. And it's not so bad on Instagram, but that's about to change, guarantee you. But what we're talking about right now is Facebook and their ridiculous amount of community standards that make absolutely no sense. Now, if you saw the post that I left on any of my videos and stuff like that, you'll see a repeal 230. The reason why I say repeal 230 is Section 230 is what Facebook uses to do and get away with whatever they want. YouTube uses it, and so doesn't Twitter. They use it to their advantage instead of what it was actually built for. The initial design for Section 230, okay, was flat out easy. It was there to notify them that they were not allowed to become publishers. They were only allowed to become a social platform, is what the issue was on that. And this is the stuff that they're using against everyone, whether you guys like it or not. And that's the actual real truth when it comes to that. So we're going to talk about this, and I'm going to use my experience, all right, on Facebook. My page has been hit with community standards left and right. Now, this is no fault of any of the editors or people that work on my Facebook page to post content for you guys to see all the time. None of this has to do with them. They didn't do anything wrong. And I tell all the people that post on behalf in my podcast not podcast, excuse me, sorry, on behalf of my page, that this has nothing to do with you, the community guidelines or community standard strikes that you guys keep getting, and it has nothing to do with that. All right, the objective of Facebook has been since, when it comes to me, especially when it comes to me. Now, this is just my experience. We'll get into this a little bit about my experience on Facebook. Way back in the when world, long time ago, I started a page on Facebook called Dimensions Media. Everybody will remember that. Anybody who knows anything about my Facebook knows how many things I've gone through to try and get stuff to be accepted on Facebook, but there was a reason why most of that stuff was not accepted on Facebook. One of the main things that I started with was a thing called Dimensions Media. That was at facebook.com/Dimensions Media. You guys remember that? It was a political page that was completely against the left, because I am completely against the left. But now I'm going to come at you guys from a perspective of being in the middle of this situation, not from the right, from the left, but I want to talk about the censorship that's happening on both sides. It's not just the right. It happens more frequently on the right, and it happens less frequently, but not as frequent as the right on the left. It happens all the time. But if you look at the post that I put, the initial post that I posted on my Totally Wrong last week was it said, what do you call it, censorship in Facebook, and there's a bunch of hashtags. And if you click on those hashtags that I put on there, you will find a bunch of stuff that was removed from Facebook for absolutely no reason, for dumb reasons. But the main reason why my page has gotten so many community standards guideline strikes, or whatever the hell you want to call it, was because what happened was I initially finally got monetized on Facebook, which, you know, Facebook, knowing that I had a page called Dimensions Media, and it was about anti-left politics, insulting the Democrats, talking about how bad social justice was for the world. And, you know, as you clearly see that now, that it's actually the truth. I guess I was not lying when I said that. You know what I mean? But now you're going to see it from that perspective when it comes to that. Okay. This is the reason why my page has been destroyed so much the Totally Wrong page has been destroyed so much, is because they know and they are aware that my account started from Dimensions Media. That was my first Facebook page. And it was a political page that Facebook, or Mr. Sucky, didn't agree with. And that's the reason why. Okay. Now, the censorship on Facebook now is becoming overbearing on people. I have seen rappers that are just doing their music on Facebook getting deeply censored and making their pages unpublished. Perfect example of that is a gentleman that sings a song that you guys all should know. Song called White Boy. I forgot his actual rap name. I forgot his name. But his page is being demolished right now by Facebook, and he keeps fighting tooth and nail to try and keep his music up, because his music is not political. It is not politically correct, because he talks about, in his rap, he raps about stuff that is going on when it comes to the social justice universe, and he has a strong issue with that. And he's a really good rapper, and I listen to him all the time. When I find his name and stuff like that, I'll link it in the video so you know who I'm talking about. Anyways, we have had several right-wing commentators that have been on Facebook that have been removed for absolutely no reason. Number one on when it comes to people being removed was Alex Jones. Now, you know Alex Jones has no more videos on Facebook. Alex Jones has no more videos on YouTube whatsoever. See, we're going to hit a couple of subjects with that, because this is the reality of what's going on. And now they're about to ramp up the censoring more, as they told you in their own press release. Facebook said that after the election, if the election is not determined, then anybody that posts about it saying one side won or whatever it is going to be removed. Now, this applies to the left and it applies to the right, which is why I'm talking to you guys from the middle of these things when it comes to situations like this. Censorship is a bad thing, whether anyone likes it or not. And I hate anything that violates the Constitution of the United States. I have always hated anything that violates the Constitution of the United States. All right. But what happened was long time ago, moons ago, there was a thing created called Section 230. Section 230 allows Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter to do these types of things to people because they find the back doors where they're able to do that. All right. Now, as you clearly see, and we'll talk in the Twitter discussion, that cesspool of a social network. We'll talk about that in the third segment. But we're going to stick with Facebook right now. Now, like I said earlier, for all you people that are living in a box and think that Instagram is not part of Facebook, you're a moron. Facebook owns Instagram. There have been several people, whether it be right or something that is not even actually insulting, just removed from Instagram for absolutely no reason. All right. Now, Facebook is trying to backtrack on this situation because they've already been sued several million times. They've already been sued over it. They've got pretty much my entire community on Totally Wrong launching up in arms against Facebook right now. Half of the people that are on my page have actually boycotted Facebook for the past 3 weeks and haven't been on there. Good job, guys. I like that. That's how we fight back when it comes to the machine that is Mark Zuckerberg. But anyways, now on Facebook, you'll notice if you do a video or something that is opinion that they don't like, quote unquote, okay, it'll come up with a gray box, and it'll have an I with a line through it, and it'll say fact check is not accurate. Do you want to see the posts? Okay. Yeah. You are actually being told ahead of time that there's someone that you follow that is giving his or her honest opinion. And for some reason, magically, there's a beautiful thing on Facebook now called fact checking, which has never happened before. Now, here's the thing with fact checking that you guys are not going to understand. Everybody's going to be like, oh, but it's just making sure the news is real. First off, don't say that to me, because I will literally rightly punch you in the face for saying that to me. Period. Okay? Facebook is not meant to be a publisher. Do you understand that? Section 230 makes it so these social medias are not allowed to be publishers at all, which means they can't edit, remove, or censor any posts from anybody, no matter what side you're on, left, right, up, down, center. It doesn't matter. Facebook does not have the right to actually remove any of your posts because it is that makes them a publisher. Do you not understand what the word publisher means? Why do you think what do you think New York Times does? What do you think Washington Post does? What do you think CNN does? What do you think Fox does? What do you think MSNBC, NBC, CNBC? I could go on and on and on. They are what is called publishers. They are allowed to edit and change their stories at will. That is the design of what mainstream news and regular news outlets are about. Facebook is not. Facebook is a social platform. The objective behind Facebook was to get people to work together and meet under a common accord, publishing and putting up their own opinions, whether anybody likes them or not. Hence the reason why there's a like button, a down like button. There's also a bunch of emojis to prove how you feel about the particular post or subject you're reading about on Facebook. Facebook was not supposed to be a publisher. What happened was they took Section 230 and took total advantage of it. This is the reason why I say repeal Section 230 for that reason. Because what's going on now is Facebook is using Section 230 that was granted to them by the Senate of the United States circa 1998. I think that's when it came into play. When that came in, it was designed and built to make sure Facebook did not become what they're not supposed to be. What they are not supposed to be is a publisher at all. They are a social network where people drop whatever they want to say, whenever they want, with no issues. Aside from promoting violence and saying you're going to go kill a bunch of people or whatever like that, or starting posting about crimes or stuff like that. And here's the issue with that, all right? What Facebook has done as a company is they have turned around and took it upon themselves to circumvent the rules of Section 230. And they use that against everybody on Facebook for absolutely no reason. And the actual reason behind it is simply because Facebook and all its staff are far left people. They are all Democrats. So anything that you say that could be insulting to a Democrat is automatically removed from the platform or thrown up with a fact check sticker on it. I have seen several in the past week, about 150 Instagrams that I follow myself have been removed for absolutely no reason. Violating community standards, violating rules, violating this, violating that. Here's what happens. Here's how Facebook does this. And the reason why they circumvent Section 230. You're going to hear Section 230 a lot in here because it's got to do with YouTube and it's got to do with Twitter as well. You'll hear about those in the next segments. But when it comes to Facebook, they circumvent Section 230 to be and they end up turning themselves into a publisher where they think that you have a community that is against the community standards, and they randomly just take your stuff down for absolutely no reason. All right. The reason behind this is because the Senate and the Congress has let them slip and do whatever they want when it comes to that. You know why? Because Mark Zuckerberg and his team at Facebook all donate to the Democrat Party. So naturally, the Congress is not going to do anything about it because, well, the Congress is all Democrat as it currently stands. Well, until November 3rd when we go all Republican. But at the end of the day, this is the reason why this is happening. They are using loopholes in Section 230 that are allowing them to post fact check stickers, this, that, the other thing. And Facebook will demonetize people for absolutely no reason. See, and here's the reason why they do that. The reason why they start demonetizing people left and right is because they don't want to pay people. Here's the thing. The people that run Facebook are just a bunch of billionaires. That's what they are. That's it. And they're running it in a way of which if they have to spend money on people that are doing good on Facebook, then they're not happy with it at all. And this is where all this is coming from. As you heard from Mark Zuckerberg in their own press release, as I said before, you can look up the press release. Don't look it up on Facebook because they'll probably block it. But you can look it up on Google. It's a simple Google search. All you have to do is write Facebook press release about what's going on when it comes to the election. If either side after November 3rd says that we won the election, those people will be removed from Facebook. This is what Mark Zuckerberg has ruled. And the thing with that is this means he's gone into this world of publishing, is what it is. He has turned Facebook into a news channel, is what Facebook is, and which he's not supposed to be doing. Section 230 was created to stop that. There was a reason on that. It was done like that. It was so nothing could be censored. All right. Now, Facebook has been doing this to me since I was Dimensions Media. Now, I don't care what happens to my page. I could honestly care less when it comes to whatever happens to me. But I'm telling you from personal experience exactly why this is happening. This is all happening literally because Facebook has took it upon themselves to turn around and censor whatever they want. That is the problem. And nobody is even talking about it at all. Nobody will even start the conversation on why this is happening. Nobody does anything about it. They just allow Facebook to act what it is. And I know what people are going to say. The first thing that people are going to say that's going to pop right out of their mind, out of the blue, is, well, they're a private company. No, they're not. No, they're not. You can publicly trade Facebook, so it's not a private company. So don't tell me that is private when it's not. You can actually invest on Facebook yourself in the stock market, making it a public forum. That's what it is. Facebook has been a public forum. Now, when Facebook started, there was no issues. Facebook was doing okay. But he decided to take it upon himself and put his own political beliefs above everybody that is going on. Now, let me give you a couple of examples before we end this segment so you can understand where I'm coming from, and we'll wrap it up in segment 3 about the situations and stuff that's going on right now. If you write anything if you post a video of anything on Facebook that involves a cop getting killed, a cop getting beat up, a black person getting attacked by the police officers, the gay community getting insulted, anything like that. If you post that stuff up, that stuff is allowed to fly on Facebook. If you make an opinion against the LGBTQ community, your post is removed while their violent posts are still left up there. Antifa, same way. Antifa posts whatever they want on Facebook, hate speech included, on everyone, completely racist, vile racist people. That's what Antifa is. And none of their stuff is ever removed at all. But if you say anything against Antifa, you get slapped with a fact check on your post because they're like, Antifa is not a group. Antifa is an idea. That's exactly what they do. And every time they fact check you, the first place Facebook sends you is to CNN. The most lying, conniving pile of shit TV news network on the planet. That's where they get their fact checks from. They get their fact checks from posts that are completely against anything Republican, anything conservative. Conservative people get demonized and destroyed on Facebook. So when you are someone like me, who's a conservative and gets a good page going, finally, Facebook naturally turns around and tries to destroy my page as much as possible, which doesn't bother me because I'm going to leave it as an example if they end up unpublishing my page for absolutely no reason. Community standards, every time I turn around, because there's some things that they can't remove, they add more community standards, allowing them to remove it. This is a blanket censorship thing that Facebook is doing to everybody. Facebook happens to be the worst offender of censorship versus the other two platforms we're going to be talking about in this podcast. All right? Now, what you don't seem to get, and I don't think you guys are going to understand again, and I'm going to keep saying it, till you guys realize Instagram is owned by Facebook. So if you post stuff on Instagram that Facebook goes against the Facebook community standards, you get your posts removed under the guides of Facebook community standards. Now, it'll come and say that when you get something removed on Instagram, it'll literally say, hey, this has been removed because you violated Facebook's community standards, which is a double shot at you. What they do with that is Facebook uses their name as they took over Instagram and bought Instagram and use the community standards only on Facebook, on both Facebook and Instagram. Instagram doesn't have its own set of rules. All the community standards that fall under Instagram's rules are the exact community standards that Facebook has. Their community standards that are nonsense. And the only time these people use these kind of stuff on you for community standards is because they have an issue with your political affiliation, or they have an issue with a post that to them is offensive, but not to everyone else. Like, I've had one post on my Facebook page where people were having a blast, laughing their ass off, and then a week later it was removed. What happened was because it got over 1 million views on the post, and Facebook's like, oh, we got to remove it. Yeah, because I'm offended. And it has nothing to do with Mark Zuckerberg in general. Anybody that works for him that looks over the content that's put on Instagram and Facebook are all left-leaning individuals. So if they see something that offends their little feelings, then all of a sudden it's removed under community standards, instating a ban on monetization for up to 90 days is what they keep doing. But what they'll do is they'll get you to the 90-day thing, and then they'll be like, well, your page is is at the risk of being unpublished. 3 posts. Out of 1,700 posts, 3 of them. And they're trying to unpublish my page over that. You tell me there's not something wrong with the censorship of Facebook. And after their statements that they made, their definitive statements where they said right out that after November 3rd, if the election is not totally determined, anybody that says we won on the right or we won on the left, this is why it affects the left and the right. Anybody who says on the left, we won, yes, we won the election, your post will be removed and you will be banned from Facebook. The same thing that's going to happen with people on the right, except it's going to be even worse on the right. And we know it's going to be even worse on the right. Okay? Now, let me talk examples of Instagram removing posts from Donald Trump, the President of the United States. Okay? Every time he says something, the censors go crazy for some reason because, there's nothing but hate for Donald Trump. And let me just leave this segment off with this. If you're allowed to post death wishes to the President of the United States because of the COVID-19 situation right now, and Facebook and Instagram doesn't remove it, but if you say anything against BLM, or if you say anything against Antifa, your account is removed and banned from Facebook. Meanwhile, the far-left people that are on Facebook can turn around and wish that Donald Trump and his wife would die. Last I knew, one of the community standards of Facebook was wishing death on people was not allowed. You weren't allowed to talk about anything that got to do with glorifying violence or death. Yet, left-wing publications that are on Facebook are allowed to talk about killing cops, killing EMTs, killing white people, wishing the president dies, wishing the president's wife dies, wishing the entire Trump family would die, calling Barron Trump how do they say that? Oh, yeah, the next school shooter. That's okay. But if you talk about anything that's got to do with anything that the left does not believe in, you are immediately removed from Facebook. And if you don't believe everything I said in this segment, send an email to Alex Jones. He'll tell you all about it. This has been TCP Segment 1 on Facebook, and I'll catch you guys in Segment 2.